Hello, welcome back to another video. My name is Gemma and we're doing things slightly different this month. So I actually had a bumper reading month in September and I read 21 books, and so I'm not going to wrap them all up in one video because it would be like an hour and nobody has an hour. So I'm going to split it into two and I'm going to do my reading stats for the whole of September today, along with all the books that I read for Shorty September. So I will talk about Shorty September in a minute, and then in my next video I will wrap up all the other books that I read in September, and we will also be starting the Bookie Bank. So it's not very original. It's based on Piggy Bank, but this is my new accountability for purchasing books, but I will talk about that in my next video. So let's start with stats and then I'll talk about Shorty September. So as I said, I read 21 books in September and that was like 4,600 pages, something in that region. I DNF'd 2 books. Mood-wise, the main moods were reflective and emotional, and then sort of secondary moods, we had hopeful, adventurous and light-hearted. So I don't usually read hopeful, light-hearted books, so that was a bit different. In terms of format, I read 11 audiobooks, 5 physical books and 5 ebooks. Page number wise, as you can expect, because it was Shorty September, 80% of what I read was under 300 pages, and then 10% between 300 and 500 and 10% over 500. So yeah, that was how it all broke down. Genre wise, all these stats are from Storygraph, by the way, if you are new. I read 6 classics, 5 literary novels, 4 historical novels and 4 fantasy novels, and then a smattering of loads of other genres. So yeah, it's here for your perusal. In terms of star ratings, it was actually quite a good month because I had 5 stars, 6 4 stars, 7 3 stars and 3 2 stars. So yes. As I said, we won't talk about all of those books today because I'm just going to talk about the Shorty September ones. If you're unfamiliar with Shorty September, it is a fabulous readathon that's hosted by Bert and Sian at Past Storytime and Heather at the Soggy Expat Book Nerd. Their channels are fabulous. I'll link them below. I discovered them via this readathon and I'm so glad I did. So I'm going to leave them below. But as part of the readathon, Heather produced this beautiful prompt sheet and we have 12 prompts, and I actually did quite well at this, so I'm highlighting this in its own video that I actually almost achieved all the prompts in a readathon, which is unheard of. So I'm going to run through it prompt by prompt, and the first one was Boxer Shorts, a comfort read, and for that I chose Charlotte's Web, and I did read that and it was delightful. So I knew the story of Charlotte's Web before I read this book. I've watched the film many times, but never read the book. And it was everything I wanted to be. It was cosy, it was comforting, it was heartbreaking, just friendship and like farms and friendship. It literally, the book was written for me. I gave it a big fat 5 stars, and yeah, I would happily read that book again because it was a joy. So the next prompt was half and half shorts, which was to read a book and watch the movie. So I think I actually changed what I picked for this. I can't remember what I picked for it originally. I think I might have... Did I pick The Perks of Being a Wallflower originally? I didn't get to that. But I did read The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. So I'm going to count this for this prompt. I didn't watch the movie in September. I have very limited TV time in my house. Usually we either have Peppa Pig or my husband is watching some sort of true crime documentary. That is like the state of affairs in my house. So anyway, that is a tangent, but I only read the first book because this bind up contains the Jungle Book 1 and the Jungle Book 2, so I read the first one and I buddy read this with the lovely Alice at Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Yeah, so what I didn't realise going into this, and that is obviously my fault and not the book's fault, but this is short stories. And if you've followed me for a while, short stories are not my jam. So the first 3 I liked because they were all set in what I would call the Jungle Book world. So we had Mowgli, we had Baloo, we had Bagheera, and I could get on board with that. I did think they were rather brutal. Just putting that out there. For a children's book, quite brutal. I would say definitely for older children. But then the rest of the stories were just animal-based stories, short stories. The two in the middle I thought were fine. The two at the end I really didn't care for. So I gave this 3 stars overall. At some point I will go back and read The Jungle Book 2, which I do believe features more Mowgli-centred stories. But yeah, a bit disappointed because it wasn't what I expected it to be going in. But again, that's more my fault than the book's fault. But yeah, 3 stars. Then we had Bermuda Shorts, which was a translated novel, and hold your breath, guys, I actually read it. It's been on my TBR about 4,000 times, but I did get to Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata, which is translated from the Japanese by Ginny Tapley Takemori. This was a lovely book. It's quite a quiet novel. We follow a young woman who starts working in a convenience store after she finishes school. She feels like she's different from other people. She doesn't have the same sort of drivers and the same filters sometimes as other people, but she gets this job in a convenience store and she feels a sense of stability there. But as she gets older, she starts to feel like the pressures of society, and it's sort of, that is really the whole premise of the book, and we just follow her thoughts and her experiences within this convenience store. I very much enjoyed it. As I said, it was a very quiet novel. It is 100% character driven book. There is very little plot to speak of. I think if you liked The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa, you will like this. It's quite similar in tone and vibe. But yeah, very much enjoyed it. 4 stars. The next prompt was Playsuit Shorts, a book you'll regret. And for this I chose Ice Planet Honeymoon by Ruby Dixon. So this is sort of the 1.5 in the series, like a novella that comes after the first book. And we follow 2 of the characters from the first book on their honeymoon. It's quite obvious from the title. I read the first one for Garb August and I surprised myself by quite enjoying it. So I thought I'd pick this one up for Shorty September. It was really short, like 50 pages or something, and I hated it. I thought it was rubbish. Absolutely. This one I should have read for Garb August, because this one was trash. I can't even explain how rubbish it was. They went on a honeymoon, she billed it as a honeymoon to her husband, but really what she wanted to do was go and bury some dead bodies. So yeah, 2 stars. The next prompt was Shorty Shorts, a book from the 70s and 80s. I didn't get to that prompt. Then we had Cargo Shorts, a book to do with nature, and I picked up The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. Now, when I did my TBR for this and said I was going to read The Old Man and the Sea, I had quite a few comments saying, it's so boring, you're going to hate it, it's awful. So I went in with pretty low expectations, but I actually quite liked it. I quite liked it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I understand all the metaphors and the underlying issues of it. Very rarely do I care about that in a book. What I care about is the characters and the story and how it makes me feel. So in this, I really liked the main character, the old man, and it is what it says on the tin. He basically goes on a fishing trip, and it's about what happens on that fishing trip. And I thought the way that it was written was really hypnotic, and as I said, I really connected with the main character, and it was really sad. It was sort of about ambition in life and where to draw the line on ambition, and yeah, lots of different themes involved in it, but I quite enjoyed it. And I don't know, when I was reading it, I thought, maybe this is like a short version of Moby Dick. If you've read both, let me know. But Moby Dick scares the crap out of me as a book. One day I will read it, but it scares the bejesus out of me. But actually, if it's like The Old Man and the Sea, I think I'll quite like it. So let me know. 4 stars. pleasantly surprised. Then we had Lifeguard Shorts, a beach read, and I chose Wait by Jeanette Winterson for this. So this is a retelling of the story of Atlas, and to a degree Heracles. Yeah, Jeanette Winterson is not for me. So I gave this 3 stars. It was fine. I quite enjoyed some of the mythical stuff, but the way it was written was written very aggressively. Lots of sort of abrasive language was used in this, which isn't a problem of its own, but I didn't feel it just didn't work for me. It didn't work for me in the context of this story. And I've read one other book by Jeanette Winterson, Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, I think it's called, and I really didn't like that either. So yeah, it was fine. I enjoyed the Atlas and Heracles stuff. I thought the ending was weird. Yeah, overall I didn't really like it. Then we had The Emperor's New Shorts, which was to read a book with an unreliable narrator, and for this I chose Fight Night by Chuck Palahnuik something or other. I DNF this. So this was one of those books where it sort of jumps around the plots and the timelines and the characters to a degree that I just felt bamboozled by it. I didn't feel like I was really connecting to anyone. I sort of was missing chunks of the plot, and I don't know whether it was because I was listening to this on audio and it would be a better experience to listen to it, to read it physically, but it wasn't working for me. I got about an hour into the audio. It was a short audio, only like 5 hours, but I couldn't bring myself to listen to another 4 hours of it, so that got DNF'd. Number 9 is Runway Fashion Shorts, and for that we had to choose a book with a beautiful cover. Again, I changed my choice here and I picked up Dispossession by Tayari Jones. So this was on audio. It's one of their like audio original like productions, but I really like Tayari Jones. I read An American Marriage by her last year maybe, and I really like her writing style, so I thought I'd give this one a go. And it was really good. It was a short story, so there's only so much I can tell you about it. It's sort of about a woman and where she belongs, and having grown up in a world where she is constantly displaced. Yeah, like I say, it's so short that I can't really tell you too much about it, but I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was an interesting commentary on sort of the working class in America at the moment, with particular reference to racial issues, and yeah, I thought it was good, so 4 stars. Then there was Denim Shorts, to read a modern classic. Again, I changed my choice here, and I read Letter from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr. I don't know if this counts as a modern classic, but it's in the Penguin Modern collection. So this is super tiddly, and again, it is what it says on the tin. It is a letter that Martin Luther King Jr. wrote to the church, effectively to explain why he was there and to really challenge them on their part in the racial issues at the time in America and supporting the black community, and his disappointment with the church. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Obviously it's non-fiction, and it was quite enlightening as to sort of his thoughts and his thought processes at the time, and also the church's involvement, which I didn't really know anything about. So yeah, I gave that one 4 stars. Then we had Scorts, which was to read a book that was mixed genre, and I chose Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, which is sort of part romance, part horror. Very broadly, this is absolutely a literary fiction book, and I buddy read this with the lovely Lindy at Lindy Magpie Reads. I have only just finished it, so I'm not going to wrap it up for September because I finished it in October, but I am going to do a solo review for this because it was stunning. Yeah, full review coming of this very soon. And then the last prompt was Ripped Shorts, a slasher and or murder mystery, and I didn't get to that one. So I did 10 out of 12 prompts. I did DNF one, but I think that's That's pretty good going for me. So did you do Shorty September? Let me know, and I will update you on the rest of the books I read in September in my next video, which should be coming out on Tuesday.